through understanding where your energy is going, what your body, mind, spirit is saying to you through those energetic imbalances. And then how do you want to move that forward? How do you want to carry forward your message in any situation? It doesn't matter whether you're in the holistic field or you're in corporate, because at the end of the day, knowing yourself and speaking authentically from that place and trusting that when you say no to something, the yes is around the corner. And when you're saying no to something, you are saying yes to you.
Today's guest is Ramona Crabtree-Falkner, a transformational empowerment coach, retreat leader, and founder of Authentic Life Journey, a space where women come to reset, realign, and reconnect with what matters most. Welcome, Ramona.
Thank you, Anita. Happy to be here.
So with that said, what is one of the most courageous things that you have done?
I would say one of the courageous things I've ever done was walk away from my first marriage. Being able to have faith that I was going to be provided for, that I could navigate taking care of my son. It was a really difficult decision at the time, and doing it was not easily decided upon. But when I finally got there, I just knew that that was what was right for me, and so I had to honor that.
And yeah, I can imagine, because it's the unknown, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like you say, it's not just you, it's your son, and will you be providing? And yeah, there's a lot to consider. So it couldn't have been.
And he's 22 years old now, so I think we did okay.
Oh, definitely. Well done. Oh, bless. So what took you on your journey of a transformational empowerment coach?
So I've been in the wellness field for 20 years. And over that 20 years, it was development over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started out with massage therapy. When I opened my first storefront, I added the layer of yoga. And then from there, it went into learning about energy and doing energy healing and sound healing. And then eventually I worked my way into becoming an educator. So I was offering continuing education and yoga teacher training. And so I think all of those components, just that evolution of time and the ever growing opportunity to continue to stay in my field of study, it has always been what I have done. So, it's continuing to show up for the service that I'm providing in different and new ways that are more aligned to my life as it unfolds. So when I started coaching back in 2016, it was because I was coming to a point where doing all of the physical practices and the massage therapy and all of that, my body was just beginning to tell me, this is done. Like, we are not doing this anymore. And so then I had a new question, like, what am I going to do next? Do I completely start something new? And I actually considered going back to school and all of those things. And I had a dear friend that was a mental health counselor, and that was the path I was considering.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat down and chatted with her, and she said, she goes, you would be really great at that. She goes, but it's gonna eat your soul. And I was like, well, I don't want that.
Exactly.
And so because I had that moment of awareness, I realized that I needed to figure something else out. And she said, I think you would be a really great coach. And so in the weeks that came after that, I was practicing. I was going every Sunday morning, practicing meditation at a Buddhist center. And I started having all these ideas and inspiration that were coming in. And so I would drive to the Buddhist center and I would chat into my phone just so I could collect all these ideas, because I'm like, I'm driving, I can't write it down. And ultimately I downloaded this beautiful program, which was my original coaching program. And I coached that for several years. And then again, as things continue to evolve, and that was 9 years ago that I created that, I started getting more and more clear about what it is I wanted to do. And so I had a couple of different programs that I wanted to make into one. And so my approach then was to marry all of these things that I have learned over 20 years of experience in the holistic wellness field. And ultimately it's about empowerment. And that, so when I really sat back and looked at who was knocking on my door, what was the core issues that we were dealing with? And the core issues we were dealing with was burnout, overwhelm, or feeling completely stuck, completely disaligned from one's true authentic voice. And so empowered authenticity and becoming an empowerment coach is settled in understanding that you are an energetic force, and you are either passively or actively creating your life. And so when we actively create it, we're empowered. So we have to claim our energy back from the things that we've dropped it into unknowingly because we were operating on behavior or upbringing or thought pattern or whatever. So we have to pull back our energy from those areas where we said yes when we really meant a no, or when we let our boundaries be crossed, or we didn't even have any boundaries to begin with. And so what I teach is that through understanding where your energy is going, what your body, mind, spirit is saying to you through those energetic imbalances, and then how do you want to move that forward? How do you want to carry forward your message in any situation? It doesn't matter whether you're in the holistic field or you're in corporate America, because at the end of the day, knowing yourself and speaking authentically from that place and trusting that when you say no to something, the yes is around the corner. And when you're saying no to something, you are saying yes to you. And so a lot of my work has been in working with professional women that kind of forcing things forward in the yang energy all the time, but just feeling completely overwhelmed with their life because they had built it on structures that were not in alignment with their truth. And so to be an empowerment coach for me is to empower another to remember who they are and to have tools to really navigate their life from a more authentic space. That was a really long answer to your question.
No, I love it, because actually you've just answered my next question, which was, you help professional women release burnout and connect with themselves. So tell me more how that came about, and you've just answered that beautifully. But it's interesting. I love the fact that, there's what you're saying, but I especially love the fact that when you say no, you're saying yes to yourself. And I think that's quite key here.
Yeah, it is 100%. Well, and so how did I get there? Well, first of all, as I said, it was who was knocking on my door, who was already coming to me. So as I made these shifts with my business model, I really decided, like, this is who I'm talking to. And so I'm building everything to talk to that person. And that doesn't mean that if a male client comes to me, I'm going to turn them away. It just means that who my core audience is that I'm communicating with, who I'm touching when I'm reaching out, is the professional woman that is overwhelmed, stressed out, burnt out, just stuck. And so part of why I got there was because I was her, right? So most oftentimes when you're stepping into a role of service, it's because something happened for you, and whatever the services that you're now feeling inspired to share is because you know the benefit of it, and you want to support and help others to find that as well. And so, I talk about this often whenever I'm having conversations like this. It does not matter what field you are in. You could be a stay-at-home mom and be in this situation that I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Being in the holistic field, I still ended up in a space of burnout. I still ended up in a space of feeling stuck or feeling like I'm an imposter. All of those things don't decide, okay, I'm only going to have that affect a person that's in an executive level position. No, any human being can be impacted by this. And in my observation, in my experience, in what I teach from, it all comes back to training.
Yes.
So what was I trained to believe was the way to do something? And so, when we're talking about holistic practices, it comes down to consistency and repetition, right?
Mm.
And so you don't go to an acupuncturist and have one acupuncture session and you're resolved. You have to go for several sessions. You have to continue to do the work outside of that session to help yourself, right? So if someone comes to me and they're telling me, oh, I have these pains that are going on all the time, la 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 la, and I say, well, you might want to seek out a practitioner that can help you with inflammation.
Yes.
We're going to work on this piece because that's mine, but I also think maybe you want to seek out some other support in this area. And so then what happens is if they don't resolve the inflammation issue and we're doing all the work over here on the energetics and on the mindset, we can get moderately better, but we want to get ourselves into a whole wheel of health, right? And so for me, what I teach is based on not only my experience with yoga, because again, yoga is my foundation. And because yoga is a practice, everything I'm teaching is practices.
Yes.
And so the more you practice it, the more benefit you get out of it, right? But also I have a beautiful messenger through my nephew who is special needs. And my sister has been a warrior for him. And their whole family has, but my sister is the one that's home every day on the ground field, practices with him every day to help him rewire his brain. That's the really important thing that I want to say here, because even with yoga, it's about rewiring the brain, because you're doing something different. You're creating a new groove. And so from an anatomical perspective, when we apply something new, the way that it becomes the new reality, the new way of being, is through consistency and repetition. Because what's happening is your brain is creating a new pathway, a new neurological pathway that then you eventually become, oh, that's just what I do, right? So say I want to start a gym regimen. If I go to the gym one day a week, I don't have that new gym regimen. But if I go 5 days a week and I have a consistent practice of going to the gym 5 days a week, I'm creating a new neural pathway. So then when I get to a week where I have something going on and I can't get to it that week, all of a sudden I feel jittery because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing the thing, right? So the body's like, but this is what we do. Why are we not doing the thing? Right?
Wow.
So that new neural pathway is created through consistency. And so much of my programming is, first of all, helping my clients recognize what it is that they're doing now that's not working. Like, we have to start out there. Without that awareness, we can't make any change. Then throughout my program, I'm teaching them different practices. And because of my background being in yoga and meditation and yoga teacher training and all of that, tactile, so journaling, meditation, movement with yoga, these are all really important tools that I use throughout my entire program, so that by the end of the 4 months, you've been using these tools pretty consistently every week, as long as you're showing up for yourself and doing the work. And then when they leave the program, it's just use the tool. Use that tool, use that awareness, use that, oh, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go back to lesson 2 because I'm having a grounding issue and I need to work on grounding. Okay, I'm going to go back and see where I need help to ground here. You see what I'm saying? It's not like, whereas whenever I see my clients read a book and then they put it down and move on to the next book. Okay, did you actually apply what you learned, or did you just read something and go, I got some new knowledge?
Yeah, exactly.
So for me, the big key to transformation is application. And the more that you apply it, the more that you integrate it, the more you become it, the more likely it is that you're walking your path forward as it.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Absolutely. So what are some of the early signs of burnout that many women overlook?
Fatigue. Just feeling kind of like tired all the time, feeling like you're on the go all the time, So whenever we have said yes to too many things that are maybe not in alignment, and I'm understand, I can resonate that it feels hard to think about the idea of saying no. And it's
Yeah.
not going to feel good in your body when you're first doing it, because your nervous system's going, whoa, we don't do this. Why are we doing this? And then the emotions come in, and then the mind of, oh, well, I'm going to upset this person, especially if we're a people pleaser. So being a people pleaser is a sign. Overgiving is a sign. So whenever we start to acknowledge that some of these behaviors are in place, then we have to ask ourselves, is this right for me? Is it right for me to keep saying yes to everybody? Because I'm going to tell you, this is what happens over time. In the beginning, it doesn't seem like a big deal. And then you're down the road 5 years. You're like, oh my gosh, I have no time. All I am doing is going. And I'm not happy. I don't feel joy. I feel like I'm running my life on a hamster wheel. I feel like I'm at everyone else's whim. That is a clear sign that something is out of alignment.
Definitely.
Yeah. And that's when I find people knocking at my door, is when they hit that space of, I just don't know. Imposter syndrome is another one that shows up a lot. The early signs, I would say, are I feel tired all the time. Just kind of feeling like you're not getting enough sleep, you don't have enough space in your day. All of those things can add up over time. Unfortunately, I don't think most people realize it until they're down the road so far they don't know how to turn the corner.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, there's many people think just being tired because of their schedule or whatever's going on in the day. So yeah, it can be covered for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So how did your personal experience with burnout lead to this work?
Well, as I shared before, I been doing this work for 20 years. Ultimately, it was illness. I had 2 surgeries. I had to have my thyroid removed back in 2012. That was one of the first times that I was introduced to burnout. I don't know that I had that name at that time. And then in 2015, I competed in a half Ironman. And you want to talk about some yang energy.
Yeah.
I spent a year training for that, on top of hustling for my work. So I was just adding more intensity to my life instead of balancing it out. And so in 2015, I had a situation where I have a spondy, and so that's where your spine is supposed to be, here, and it's here. So it's like this, right? So and that's an over exaggeration. Mine's not that hard, but my body thought it was, right? So I had pain running down both of my legs into my feet. In the half Ironman, I had to walk the back half of the half marathon. So 6 miles I had to walk because I couldn't run, because I had so much pain going down into my feet that every 5 minutes we had to stop so I could stretch my calves, because they were contracting. I actually had, at one point in time, I was on the bike. I had to stop the race, get off my bike and stretch, because my body was already showing the signs that it was not going to make it. I did manage to cross the finish line.
Bless.
And again, I think that was pure, will that was moving me forward. And that was actually 2014. Sorry, I've got the dates wrong. But so 2014 that happened. And then the following year, my body just was like, okay, I'm shutting down now. I'm not going to do anything for you. And so in September of 2015, I started seeing a doctor for my back, getting shots, doing all the Western medicine. And I wasn't applying the Eastern medicine. I wasn't applying the holistic medicine. I wasn't applying the energy medicine. And so some things happened over the next few months as I was going down that path. And one of them was being introduced to a video of a speaker that was talking about energy and how we can heal ourselves if we just align ourselves. And so, that level of burnout that I was at was so intense. It was physically taking me down. And so ultimately what happened over that time is I had to close my business doors and go down to a small room. I had to change everything in order to just to function for that year. And it was December of that same year, 2015, that I was reminded of this same speaker, and I went back and watched the video again.
Wow.
And I just said, okay, like, this is it. I'm done. And so 2016 is when I created my coaching program because of this. So, you know, the path to burnout was not like a linear path. It was, I kept thinking I was making the appropriate adjustments, and then something else would happen. And so between, and it was before 2012, whenever all of it really started, but that was when I had my first surgery. So I would say between 2012 and 2016, Spirit was really trying to get my attention. And I was not listening.
Yeah.
And so in 2016, when I finally heard, that's when, you know, the program was downloaded. That's when I set some intention for my new company. I had a different company name up to that point. And so that was when Authentic Life Journey came to be. And it was really the departure from the old way for me. It was part of that commitment to the new way of living my life, and teaching others to do the same. And so for the past 9 years, that's what I've been doing. And this year is a whole new beginning within that company name, with the restructuring of my business and really focusing on the empowerment coaching and supporting other women to break free.
That's fantastic and well done. I mean, well done on so many different accounts there. Wow. You know, Ironman is not an easy task to actually achieve it with your spine. Wow.
Yeah, well, and I only did a half, so I was like, I'm done after this. I don't need to do a full.
So what does living in alignment actually look like in everyday life?
Yeah. Well, it looks like a magical, beautiful, messy you know, situation. It's not, there's no perfection in it. Essentially, living an aligned and authentic life is knowing yourself so intimately that you are your best friend.
Love
you
that.
know, and really truly, like, I was not raised to have a relationship with myself. I was raised to please others. And so to shift that energy, to shift that dynamic, to recognize that I have to align with what's right for me, because if I abide by other people's needs of me, then all I'm going to do is find myself back into states of dysfunction and unhappiness. Now, does that mean that I don't have struggling moments? Does that mean that I don't have opportunities to really evaluate things? No. So it's not about a flat surface, right? So it's about balance. It's about understanding we're going to work in and out of balance, those scales moving up and down, up and down. And when we can get to a place that we can accept both, we can accept the yin, we can accept the yang, we can accept the ease, we can accept the challenging moments, and we can look at all of it as part of the magical gift of our life. It doesn't, you know, the struggles don't have to have that much power over us anymore. And that does not mean that it's easy, but it does mean that we have a choice in how we're going to participate in it. Now, when I see myself in a difficult moment, even if I'm in the moment going, I can't believe this is going on, or, you know, whatever my ego wants to attach itself to, behind that ego, I hear that smaller voice going, this is happening for a reason. It's okay. You can trust in this process. Even if it's uncomfortable to do it, you will find a solution. And so when I have messy moments, I know that they are part of this balancing of my scales. Like, okay, here's another opportunity for me to refine something, for me to elevate into the next level. And, you know, our ego minds want to attach to what's not working and really, really make that the star of the movie, right? And what I practice is, even when I'm in it, I will think back on how I used to be. As I would go and I would have conversations, and I would want my friends to bring that fiery feeling higher. And so we would get into these places where we were so mad at something or someone or whatever, and then you would just be like, I'm just not going to speak to that person, or I'm going to leave that thing, or whatever the case may be. Like, that energy was so heavy and so dense, and all it did was cause more chaos. Whereas now I have surrounded myself with relationships that are therapeutic, that help me. Yes, I may need to be like, I just need to talk this out right now. I don't need any feedback. I just need to allow myself to express it so that it can leave my body.
Absolutely.
And then I'll let you know what I'd like for you to give me to help me see that. And sometimes that's all I need, is just to be heard, and I have the answer. And other times I want to have dialogue with either myself through journaling, or with another person that is going to help shift perspective from, you know, the chaotic space into, okay, what's underneath it? What is it that my soul is giving me this opportunity, this experience to be in, so that I can be more? How can I be more from this, instead of being stuck in any way, shape, or form in the dysfunction of it all? And I think that is the biggest gift that I can give myself to help live most authentically, is when I can claim ownership of everything that I'm experiencing in my life, and understand that it's here for a reason. And I'm telling you, I've had some crap happen. I've really had to decide, am I going to let that define me? Or am I going to let it be the fertilizer to whatever it is that I am growing into being? And it's not been comfortable.
I can imagine.
But it's all divinely organized for my beautiful experience.
That's absolutely wonderful. Out of the chaos comes the beauty of it.
If we look at nature, right? There's a tornado, there's a hurricane, there's a this, there's a that. You know, yeah, it destroys everything in its path, but why? What could come on the other side of that may be necessary, you know? And that's not to say that those things aren't heartbreaking, because they are. And they're devastating, and they require a lot of resiliency, and our lives have those same kinds of energies. And so we have to have patience and compassion and grace and resiliency in our life. So wherever we can take nature's messengers and see how they apply to our own nature, I think that's where some magic lies.
Absolutely. And can you share a simple practice someone can use to reclaim their energy?
So, you know, my number one things I say anytime I'm on an interview and ask these questions is breathe. Learn how to breathe, learn how to pause. So the sacred pause is something that I talk about a lot with my clients, because our natural inclinations might be to just say yes to something because that's what we've been trained to do. I mean, I remember being told as a child, answer me now. Well, of course. So now that's why I feel this need to answer right now. My nervous system doesn't feel comfortable sitting back and saying, I think I need to think about that for a minute before I answer that question. So when I started applying sacred pause and started encouraging my clients to apply sacred pause, what that does is it allows me to move beyond my ego response into my authentic voice and heart and truth, and really say, is this really an alignment for me to be a part of? So I'll use an example. I had a business that I was talking with to do a program with them. And when I originally spoke, I said, you know, this is how I like to do things. And I would like, and so if this aligns to you, then we can move forward. If not, then I understand. Well, in the beginning, it aligned. Okay, well, so we're doing the thing. And then all of a sudden I get this message saying, well, you have to sell this thing. You have to promote this thing. And I was like, yeah, that's not the agreement that we came up to in the beginning. So that's not going to work for me. And so I had to decide in that moment, because I could have gone with old behavior and said, well, I've already traveled down the road 3 months with this company. I guess I should just make it work. When every part of me was like, this doesn't feel good. It's not what I wanted. It's not what I agreed to. And so I literally had to sit there in a meeting and say, I'm sorry, but this is not what I was under the understanding of. And so this doesn't feel aligned for me. But it wasn't a snap judgment. It was, oh, okay. And I took a deep breath and I asked myself in real time, okay, your body is tight. Is this something that's right for you? And that to me is how I know now whenever, and I can tell almost instantaneously if something is coming at me and it's a no, my entire chest will just go like this. And I have trouble breathing. And so I spent a lot of time not listening to that the year prior. And so I made a real concerted effort at the end of the year when all of that came in to say no to anything that made me feel that way. And again, we go through phases, right? So I had a year where I wasn't saying no, or I should have said no, or I was, but it was after I'd said yes to where it should have originally been a no. And so it's learning to do that more immediately in the moment rather than getting yourself kind of down the road and then having to backtrack. But here's the thing I do want to say about that. Even if you are down the road, you can still walk away.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And our minds will convince us all the reasons why we cannot walk away, especially when there's money involved. But here's the thing. If you step back and evaluate from that sacred pause place, how am I going to feel if I continue down this road for the next 3 months that I'm committed to this situation? Where am I going to be in 3 months? How much more distress am I going to be in 3 months? And if you can look and ask that question and the answer is an opposition of your peace, then your answer is, I got to step away. And I have stepped away from more situations than I can explain where money was involved. And I had to just let go because it wasn't working. And so at the end of the day, is the fight worth my peace? No, never.
Absolutely. Yeah. So why do you believe authenticity is the key to healing and fulfillment? Quite a big question there.
Yeah. So I believe that authenticity is the key because when we are really connected to our truth, then we can align what we're doing to that truth. We can live with intention. We can live on purpose. And I really love that phrase, on purpose, because it's twofold for me. So one is I'm living on purpose. I'm doing it intentionally. I am choosing what I'm doing. I'm showing up exactly where I know is right for me to show up. And then the second part is living on purpose is this is my purpose and I'm living that purpose. So that twofold approach, I think, is so important to really understanding the totality of what I'm guiding my clients towards is live with your authenticity as your guide. It is your most valuable resource is when you can find out who you are, you can love who you are, and you can be who you are without fear of anyone's judgment. And I am telling you, this girl right here, the things I had to do, especially in my family of origin, was like, okay, I am breaking the mold. I am breaking a cycle. I am part of the generation that is going to heal something that has been so damaged for too long. And doing that meant I had to have courage. It meant I had to be willing to say no. I meant I had to be willing to walk away from that marriage that I I told you I walked away from, that was unhealthy and was chosen out of those old behaviors. It meant that I had to be willing to say, I'm a yogi and I'm okay with understanding that you may not understand what I'm doing, but I know how I connect to higher power. And it doesn't have to be the way that I was taught. And that there's nothing wrong with any of that. And, so it was courage ultimately that allowed me to find my authenticity. And without that, I don't know that I would be where I am today. And I wouldn't want to be. In all honesty, I'm really happy with where I am, even with all the mess that came with it to get here.
Absolutely. Wow. It's just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
So you have given us so many tools and daily steps to anyone that wants to start empowering themselves and living in alignment. What would you say is the key takeaway?
That you have the answers. Anytime we sign on with a guide or a coach, they don't have all of your answers. And that was one of the struggles that I was gifted to work through over the past 3 years, was letting someone else's methodology decide how I was going to function within my business. And that came at some pretty large cost for me with that decision that I had made. As frustrated as I was with the practitioner, I learned a lot. And one of the biggest things I learned is that I know best what's right for me. And if I don't honor that, no one's going to do that for me. And I don't have to say yes to something just because that's the methodology that that person is teaching. And their ability to pivot and think, outside the box is on them, not on me. So even though that was a pretty huge struggle that I went through a year and a half ago, I know that it was necessary because of where I am now. Like, there are things that I did learn in that situation that are helping me now, which is lovely. They just weren't the things that I was expecting, and so I will always be the coach that looks at the person as an individual and does my very best to meet them where they are and support them to find their authentic truths and to empower themselves to live those authentic truths from that place of what's right for them. And so, you have those answers. For me as a guide, it's only my job to help you connect to them.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put. Thank you, Ramona.
Yeah.
Wow. So where can the listeners find you online, your book? What's your website?
Yeah. So my website is authenticlifejourney.com. You can find me on my socials and under the same name, on Instagram and on Facebook. I also have a YouTube channel that is in process. It's a work in progress, and I'm okay with that. But I look forward to sharing more information there for people to find, more support. And then, be able to talk with me more. I also wrote a book, and it's called Inspirational Journeys That Are Awakening the Soul. And so this book was my, I love travel, and retreats is such a huge part of my business, because I believe in the power of removing yourself from the noise so that you can gain clarity. And so this book was about the different experiences I had on some pretty magical travel opportunities, and how I grew and connected more to myself through them. So those journeys ultimately opened up parts of my heart and soul that I couldn't have found in another way. So, and some of the stories are messy, and some of them are magical, and I think it's a pretty good representation of just kind of having a conversation with me.
Wow. And all the links will be in the show notes, so please do go ahead and get that book if it's for you. Thank you for sharing your insightful wisdom and knowledge with us today. And by doing so, you have helped so many others make a difference. I really want to acknowledge you for that. Ramona Crabtree-Falkner.
Thank you so much, Anita.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So we are all about Create the Courage to Be Fearless podcast here. What is your definition of courage?
To know yourself so deeply that you're not willing to hide, be small. You step into your greatness and you do it without abandon.